What's up, everybody? Nick Powell's publisher of 1851franchise.com here with another episode of Meet the Zor, where you get to meet franchise brands and learn their stories. If you like these videos, be sure to click subscribe. Coming up next, we're talking ISI Elite Training. All right. Eventually, we'll talk the brand. Adam, first we're starting with you. How did you accidentally fall into franchising? What's your franchise backstory?
Yeah, so I was a former college athlete, and right out of college, had to do an internship. Had that like 400-hour internship that I had left to get done, and went to Anytime Fitness right there on campus, and walked in. I was always entrepreneurial spirited, and walked in and said, "Hey, I need to do an internship," but ultimately. As long as you sign off for this, I'll pay you $800 a month. But I get to keep all the revenue for starting a personal training department inside Anytime Fitness. So that was really my first exposure to franchising. They didn't have a personal training department at that specific location. And so within the next 8 weeks was making like 30 grand a month. And like, oh, there's something to this. So, ultimately started ISI Elite Training in 2013. And really the backstory there was, ISI stands for Iron Sharpens Iron from Proverbs 27:17. And really the whole heart behind ISI is taking athletic-based training to the general population. So we've been doing strength training for, 11 years now, in a kind of a group setting. And so did that for 5 years, opened 5 locations down in the Myrtle Beach, South Carolina market. And then decided on a whim while we were in the middle of Hawaii that we wanted to start franchising. And so came back, moved to Charlotte, because I said I had 5 locations, and moved to Charlotte and wanted to make sure that those locations worked without me. And lo and behold, they did. Wrote the FDD on a 12-week, 12,000-mile Class A. Went on a road trip tour with the family. Really figured out what that would look like and started the journey. So I've been franchising since really 2019. We're at about 140 locations awarded. We'll be at 55 doors open here by the end of this year on that, and then just launched our second brand as well. So things are going great.
If you go back to the day before you were in franchising and it said, Adam, explain what this is, would you have been able to do it?
No, I think I'm like most people, right? They think franchising is McDonald's and Dunkin' Donuts. So no, I wouldn't at all. And it's its own world. I always tell people that I don't know if I've ever met anyone that, I'm sure I have, but it doesn't ring a bell. Anyone that's gotten into franchising and ultimately have come out of it, whether that's at the headquarters level or, as a franchise partner. So it's its own world. It's unique.
I asked that question, and I like unpacking a bunch, which is, I want to unpack some things from your story. But I look at a franchise website, and I've been really, really dialed into this, that none of us know what franchising is, but all of us go towards buy my franchise as soon as we land on a website. And what I love, you have a research franchise tab, but it says it's all about your franchise. And I'm like, oh man, reshape that. Tell me what franchising is, because like, if you think about that, you talk about doors open and stores in development. You probably can think through all the candidates that you've talked with that are trying to figure out, like, does this align with my values, which clearly there's value driven behind this. Yep. And then, can this build wealth for my family? You talk about what you did as semi-absentee for how could we still operate the business. And so I hear all these things in the opening statement, and then I look at it, it says, the leading boutique fitness franchise. I have no idea what that means. Yeah. So to the end user, like, the only way I'm going to buy into the culture at that point and be totally dialed in is if I'm a customer of yours, or some franchise broker consultant has convinced me like, yeah, you got to buy into this because
Right.
it's the thing. But you have so many beautiful things that are happening behind the scenes that if you helped coach me, give me the personal training on what franchising is first, then talk about what the opportunity is and how we're trying to align our culture back to you as a business operator. I think there's something special here to someone looking from the outside. Any comments on that?
No, I mean, I agree. I mean, I think a lot of people, social media, I mean, whether we like it or not, social media drives a lot of perceptions, thoughts, feelings, emotions, right? And we're in a day and age where people unfortunately are wanting to, the level of entry into entrepreneurship is probably lower. The barrier to entry is lower than it's ever been. And so I think it's, franchising is a really unique space because you can get into franchises for $100,000 and you can get into them for $1 million, right? It's really understanding like, what is your vision? And then what we really talk about is the vehicle, is the franchise is the vehicle. You could go start a car wash on your own. You could go start a gym on your own. You could go start a home service-based brand on your own. Your likelihood of success is far less, but it's ultimately, is this going to be a vehicle to get to the vision or destination of where I want to go? And that's really how we coach people. But I think it's a great point, right? Is like most people don't fully understand even, they probably think the franchise you're going to pay just a crap load of royalties, and the founder who's sitting at the top is just a wealthy multi-billionaire, and the perception's definitely different than what reality is.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Yeah, I mean, like I think about your story, and if you were to cross apply your journey and saying like, first, like you think about a personal trainer, obviously someone comes to the table with a goal, whether it's I want to be fit, I want to lose weight, I want to reshape, or I want to get, for me, when first time I hired a personal trainer was because I wanted to dunk a basketball, but I could, that failed. I got to be able to jump at least a little bit to be able to get there. But the point is like you think of the construct of a personal trainer. I come to the table with a challenge, and the personal trainer says, okay, based on all of these things, all this equipment, all these resources I have, here's how we're going to build a program for what goes in your body and how you're going to work on your body. And so you take that format and say, well, is anybody really doing this in franchising back to the franchise operator? And if you use that as your North Star to say, like, we're actually personal trainers for entrepreneurs, now all of a sudden you have a framework for how you're standing out in the crowded marketplace. Because again, like when you get into boutique fitness, you almost have to be a fan of the brand to beeline it to the entry point, because or else I don't understand what you do differently as, again, like someone that's around the web. But I think you have some of these pieces. I would lift that up. If you think back to you're writing this FDD, your first one, I'm sure you have a franchise attorney now, but you're writing your first FDD. Like, what's the dream in your head, and how has that dream played out, and where does the vision go from here?
Yeah, so I think one of the big, and you've experienced this, one of the most challenging things is, if you were yourself 10 years ago, to say like you are where you are today, you would have never imagined, right? So I remember, and I think the challenge is always not allowing your success or growth to ultimately be a numb feeling, right? And it's challenging, right? It's like we opened a door in California last week. Like I would have been over the moon, obsessed, wouldn't be able to sleep at night. And naturally, like I've grown as a leader, right? And so super excited, definitely can go to bed though, right? and sleep. But I think from that standpoint, I wouldn't have imagined being here. I mean, we have, so we started it's called Relentless Brands. We started a portfolio company here about a year ago. We've got 3 direct-to-consumer brands under it. And then we've got 3 brands that service our franchise partners. And, so I always say the vision is in this space and in this season of my life it's ever changing. Just really trying to stay true to the core values and really keep our client at the forefront, which is our franchise partner. It's not the consumer. And so I think a lot of brands can get lost in them thinking that their client is the actual end consumer. And in franchising, it's why we've started an FAC so early, and why we really get feedback from our franchise partners and set very clear expectations. But, you know, I think the vision is to continue to build brands, acquire brands, specifically brands that enhance life. Like we're not saying, hey, we're not going to get into this space or that space. We're just really focused on brands that do better for people. And I'd say that's what we're most excited about right now. We just launched the Plunge House, which is a pretty cutting edge cold plunge contrast therapy brand. Just got the FDD completed on Friday and have gone out to market, and we've got about 30 interested candidates ready to go there as well. So exciting.
Click on your LinkedIn page. I would change your language to say everything starts and ends with our franchisees. Like that, it's such a simple statement, but it's such a big statement for defining it. So after we're done with this, you should push replay on what you just said and change the words to be exactly what you just said, because that sticks with me. Everything that you're building, and now, like if we go back to the research stage, when you're a portfolio company, but I don't think they've done it well, but the broker world, what they've done is basically say, okay, look at all these people that don't know what franchising is. Let's capture them and tell them we're a coach. Now, my issue with that is there's no integrity in that, because we never say how much we're going to get paid, and we say we get paid nothing by you. We work for free. And so it's built on a house of lies to start. But here, like if you line that back to what you're doing, you're going to capture candidates that say, here's how much money I have, and I'm intrigued in joining wellness or brands that have impact on people. And so now you can pull them in and say, step one, we're not even going to talk to you about Plunge House or anything else. We're going to talk to you about what franchising is. Now we're going to align your mission and values back to a brand that aligns to what your outcomes are going to be. And I think that's going to be part of your superpowers, is if you, again, put the franchisee first and say, okay, how can we build great people that are going to scale their businesses? It's all there. Your statement on unit opens, how do I feel? Like, I think every entrepreneur, including me, goes to that moment. Like, I can remember what it felt like to sign our first client, and I'm still excited about signing a client today, but it doesn't feel the same. And I sometimes have to remind myself, if we lose touch with that excitement, then if we lost touch with it, how are we going to make sure that we're giving the clients what they need? And then I was thinking about this the other day. This year has been more turbulent for our business than some other years. And I look at the number, and the number is just a scorecard. I'm like, it's gone down a little bit this year. We're down. What do we have to do? We're resetting in Chicago and all this stuff. But I look at it, I'm like, all right, but remember what it felt like when we're going this way and we hit that number, and how did you feel? I was like, holy shit, this is the biggest thing ever. And I think that's the lonely side of being a business operator, even for franchisees, is being able to talk through this stuff and, have someone that's experienced at the same level, because the franchisee goes through it too. The second they sign that agreement and pay that fee, they're stressed. But people have been there before then. So obviously the vision is pretty sound. If there's a candidate that's been watching this, what else do you want them to know about your culture, your business, you as a leader? What else is important?
Yeah, I mean, I think from the standpoint of who we are at Relentless Brands now, under that, we've got, there's a couple different ways that I think, and you could argue for both ways, what's right, what's wrong. But what we really believe in is infrastructure first. And so, I'm sure you've experienced that too, right? You're constantly in an investment mode. Like, I looked at our payroll the other day, being over 200,000 a month, and I'm like, oh my God. But it's all in, again, kind of what I talked about at the very beginning, right? Is our franchise partners, we're only going to be successful if our franchise partners are successful, period. And so having that infrastructure and support from the beginning, and then awarding and selling into that, is really critical. That's our philosophy. And then anything that we launch or do, it goes through the lens of two things. Number one, does it make our franchise partners more money? Does it make their lives easier? If it doesn't check those boxes, we don't do it. And so it makes decision-making matrices very, very simple. And then I'd say our core values, under Relentless Brands, we really are. I mean, we're not a startup, but we feel like we're in startup mode. And so there's a level of, I would say, relentlessness. There's a long days right now. But I was telling a franchise partner this the other day. I said, if you're someone who really like thrives in growth, you never arrive, right? Like you go from good to great, and then that great becomes your good. And now you're going from good to great. And that the question is, at what point is enough? And if money is the only thing that's driving you, that's very easy to answer. But if money doesn't drive you from that standpoint, then I don't know if anything will ever stop you. So I'd say it's a fun atmosphere, one that we're, I think that website, even what you're talking about, it's outdated, because we just had a conversation the other day. Like, we don't care to be the best. There's so much room for everyone to win, right? But I think that we're being our best is the main priority, and then finding franchise partners that align with what we're doing.
I think if someone's listening to this, what I would extract from what you just said, $200,000 payroll. I'm there too, and I look at that, and you could look at that as a big number, but it's also a scorecard on how much support you're giving back to your franchisees. Yeah. And I think that's such a big thing. And then again, pull out nuggets and put it back to work. But if I'm doing this persona project with a brand, and part of what I'm doing is extracting how their buyers got into their system. I said, well, what is a hurdle that you feel now for this brand? And they said, well, the reason I got into it is because I wanted to get out of the rat race of corporate America. But I needed infrastructure around me, because when I'm an executive vice president of a business, and I look around, I have all the resources to make sure that I'm hitting my KPIs as an EVP. As a franchise leader, I need to look around and make sure I have all the resources. What you just said is, like, the resources that you're putting around the franchisee offset some of that. So you can leave corporate America, but still have the corporate infrastructure. I think that's very important to someone who's about to feel really lonely on an island by themselves. So I think that's awesome. So, all right. So you said, let's close in this. You said continue buying brands, building them in here, but obviously with the mindset of the franchisee, like, as part of the mindset is you become multi-brand. Is there a target that you're looking for? Do they obviously have to align with your core values, or are you looking at immature brands that you could take and put in here and put the infrastructure around and instantly beef them up?
Yeah, definitely more in the younger stage. So I think brands that haven't franchised yet that we can acquire, or launching brands. I mean, it's the Plunge House we launched from the ground up. Human Nutrition is not a franchise brand, but it's an e-com brand that we own, and that's been a ground up. So I'd say we love creating the story, the branding elements. Our marketing team is by far the biggest department within our brands and at HQ. But I think wherever that leads us, right now we're looking at, we just launched this week a digital marketing agency and call center for our franchise partners.
That's great.
And it was all out of it's called Tattle. It was really all out of a need of, we could not find a really good really good vendor that was consistent for our franchise partners. And then the call center aspect. So a lot of the companies, we also have a construction project management company. So a lot of it is, how do we make their lives easier? And we're solving pain points that we're identifying, as we mature, that other third parties there's nothing like having something at headquarters. I'll say that the level of communication, like dealing with the third parties, good, but when it has to do with franchise partners being the end customer there, we can control everything when they're sitting at headquarters, and we have, hey, this construction is going south. Like, we can have a cross-departmental meeting in 30 minutes versus having to wait for a weekly meeting with a a third-party construction project management company. So it's that part's been fun, is really solving and creating opportunities for our team as well within that realm.
Take that message, go destroy that website, go put it back into play, because your why you why now is very simple, but you're not saying it. And if it were me, if I bought your holding company today, I don't have individual brand websites. I pull it all under one umbrella. So every dollar that I spend is back towards culture. And the advantage for a franchisee is it doesn't matter what other brands, that's all more additional infrastructure and data that you're pulling on customers that you're able to now deploy back to your other brands. I think you're on your way. I would just reconfigure that and go take that expensive marketing team and say, go do this, guys. Time to go. I love it. Well, Adam, thank you for this time. I appreciate it. Love what you guys are doing and look forward to seeing where the story goes.
Awesome. Thanks, Nick. Appreciate you, man.
Love it. For Adam, I'm Nick. This is another episode of Meet the Zor.